Hello and welcome to the 100th episode of The Art of Product. So for this episode, Derek and I wanted to do something a little bit different. So we have asked a number of our previous guests to come back on the podcast and update us on how they're doing. One of the great things about having a podcast is being able to interview interesting people. And so we figured we'd have them back and see what's going on in their lives. So we'll get that started right away, and I hope you enjoy it. So yeah, I don't really have a strong plan for this other than just catching up and seeing what you're up to.
I would love to. So what am I up to these days? I was running a growth agency, bellcurve.com, and realizing that running an agency is not rewarding and stressful and not really the type of business that is easy to sell. We thought, let's just take those learnings and purpose them for a similar business, but one that is a true product, not a sort of service agency type business. And so that's exactly what we did. And we made demandcurve.com. And so now we're training companies how to do what it is we were doing when we actually had the agency. And it's a bit more productized, right? Because we can teach you, we can delegate the teaching to instructors, we can make sure they're effective, and it's more rewarding. And when we teach people now, they feel really empowered. Whereas before with the agency, they're like, great, double the success next month, or we're dropping it. You know, like the dynamic emotionally is very different. And so when we pivoted to this demandcurve.com play, we also applied to YC, Y Combinator, and we got in.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And so that was the pivot that set us on this new trajectory.
Very cool. Has the program started yet?
Yeah, it started. It's actually we've been testing it quietly for about half a year. And so we hardened the curriculum to make sure it's effective. And now we're training companies. I think about a third of our students are YC companies, and then the rest just find out about us across the web. And so it's really rewarding. It's really fun.
That's awesome. So is Bell Curve still doing work, or did you just step away from it, the day-to-day of it?
So for the time being, we're still taking leads, but then we're redirecting them to people we trust. And so we still want that optionality of being able to revisit it. And we've done a lot with it. It has a history behind it, so we don't want to fully abandon it. But at the moment, its greatest value add is just lending credibility to Demand Curve because of all the clients we had there, all the testimonials. And it's effective when we're pitching people Demand Curve to say, we're distilling the learnings we had from the agency, and all that experience can now be yours, which is absolutely true. And so we're not going to fully shut it down, but for the time being, we're not accepting new clients.
Very cool. And is Y Combinator running already? Are you doing it currently? Yeah,
there's only 2 weeks left. What's interesting is we applied to them with this vision of taking this Demand Curve thing where we train companies in growth and pivoting it a little bit and training individuals in growth and making like the Lambda school of marketing. So we can train people to become growth marketers as part of their career, people who were previously, doing anything. And in the process, we help them get hired. And like that just doubles down on aligning ourselves with the sort of happiness and success of the students or clients. Because like when we train them and get them hired, they are so happy, and we've had such a material impact on them. It's very rewarding.
That's great. And was Y Combinator an interesting experience?
So there's 2 or 3 components. There's like 3 major components. One is the advice leading up to demo day, and the demo day experience, which is the best opportunity a company can ever have for creating a feeding frenzy from investors toward you. There's just nothing like it. So if you need to raise funding, it is unparalleled. The second component is access to the community. And so in our particular case, we have a business that benefits a lot from accessing hundreds of thousands of YC founders because we train founders in how to do growth. So it's very beneficial from that angle. And there's also this internal forum within YC where we can chat with each other, and that's also been super constructive. And then The third angle is the advice. The third component is the advice. So you get advice from the YC partners, and then there are like dinners and events they throw. The YC partners are legitimately excellent because they've just pattern matched across so many hundreds of founders that they've worked with and seen what worked for them, that they're able to say, okay, well, I've seen this 100 times and here's how I pattern match onto you. This is what you should be doing for sales, marketing, hiring, building your company, product, everything. It is so high leverage to have a 1 hour phone call or 40-minute phone call with a YC partner. And the events are also very good. They bring in the best people they can. They keep them tight and concise, and they're very constructive. It is quite a commitment, I will say. Like, it takes a lot of time. It's in some ways you're battling the distraction of YC while trying to build your startup. And ostensibly, they're kind of the same thing. Like, you do YC to help accelerate the pace of your startup, but the events take a lot of time. You have to go down to Mountain View. I think they might be trying to come up to SF soon to make it easier. But yeah, it's a big time commitment.
I believe it. So the program is almost wrapped up, and you have this sort of new thing going. So, like, what's next?
We've come to realize, like, our core, like, the magnet for everything else we're going to build, all our streams of revenue, is based off our brand's credibility and my individual credibility and that of my team. And so if we are first and foremost thought of as, say, the most legitimate people in growth or marketing, the question is, how do we pivot that? How do we leverage that trust to then launch products? And which products could we launch that are the least risk, highest ROI, and also like synergistic, complementary to the other things we're doing? And so this is my long way of saying we're going to keep building products to solve marketing problems. So maybe a job board, maybe a placement program for like senior people who want to get placed elsewhere. And we're going to try to be the one-stop shop for, if you need growth marketing in any way, advice, training, introductions, anything, we want to be that company. So that's our current vision.
Well, that sounds good. Anything else going on in your life you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Sure. I would say, what else? Well, I'll be honest, the writing stuff at Julian.com takes up like a huge, there's a lot of mental overhead there. So like in any given day, a couple hours of time goes to thinking about that, and maybe not a couple hours, and certainly my weekends are consumed by it. And so that is a big part of my life. And I think every time I release a handbook on Julian.com where I go deep into a new topic, I'm more excited to do the next one. And I think part of that is the feedback loop between releasing something and seeing people enjoy it and asking for feedback on it. So I'm very much enjoying writing stuff at Julian.com. And that's probably the most satisfying thing that I do. And I will keep doing it.
Nice. I saw you have a writing guide that just came out, so we can definitely link that up. Congrats on publishing that. Thank
you, sir. Yeah, we'll see if it takes off like the building muscle guide I made. Quick story on that is I've written 3 guides now, writing, building muscle, and growth. But only one took off in SEO, and at no point was that calculated on my part. And so it gets like hundreds of thousands of people from per year from Google, just organically. And so now I'm like, that came, because it came out of the blue. Like, it never did. And then there was this SEO update in like January 2019, and just something snapped, and like Google now loves the guide. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I guess if I just keep creating guides over time, some are going to hit if they're high quality. And maybe that's a cool source of traffic that I never really had before.
Well, awesome. I wish you luck. I hope everything goes well, and thanks for coming by.
Beautiful. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, dude. Take care.
Peace.
All right. Our next person we're talking to that we're going back in the time machine is Mr. Jason Cohen. How's it going, Jason?
Good.
Glad you're coming back. Your episode, which was 69 back in December of 2018, was quite popular. People were really into it. So it's nice to have you back on here.
It's nice. Just telling the truth is usually popular.
Yes. I appreciate that. Like, yeah, you're not, you talk about the good and the bad.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of essential. You and I were sort of talking before the call, and as I was listening back to this episode to get ready, I was like, wow, I was really afraid to launch because I was convinced that everyone was going to kind of hate us because there were bugs and the product was unstable and all this. And then a few months later, we did anyway, and it was fine. And in fact, people were like way more gracious and forgiving than I expected them to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're honest about what kind of company you are, then people will be gracious and forgiving because they know, oh, it's just a couple people and they're trying to make this work. And a lot of people get that and want to support that. And I mean, sure, there's a certain bar you have to still cross of quality and I don't know, maybe in some cases, customer service, whatever it is, just so it's not just garbage, sure. But then people are rooting for you, really. And ironically, sometimes people say, well, I want to pretend to be a big company so I can get customers. But then those customers who think you're bigger because you fooled them, maybe you did, probably not, but if you did, well, then they expect certain things, and you're not going to deliver that, and then they won't be supportive because that's not the expectation you set. So that honesty and like, this is how big we are, this is what we're trying to do, actually helps garner that. And then at some point you get too big for that and you lose it. I remember at WP Engine where that happened, and it was like, hey, we don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore, and we don't get the, oh, it's okay, I know it's just you guys anymore. We get the, okay, look, this should never break ever. It's like, oh, when did that become the expectation? Mm-hmm. So it happens.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would say we have definitely leaned into the, hey, we are 3 people kind of things. Like we make sure we don't try to hide that, and we try to actually quite the opposite, kind of almost like put it in people's faces. Like, here's a picture of us in our quote unquote office, which is Joel's second bedroom. This is Tuple headquarters.
Yep, it works.
Yeah, it does. And like people have just said, like, we're rooting for you. Like, I want this to succeed. Like, I can't use it right now, but I hope it works great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of the opposite I expected. I was picturing this mob of insanely discerning and demanding customers who were going to be turned off by all our problems. And I found like quite the opposite. Well,
then you should read Hacker News less often.
Yeah, actually, I've been reading it less and less every week, I would say. I'm almost never looking at it anymore. And sometimes I get emails every once in a while from someone, and it's that kind of nasty thing where like, how dare you charge this for that or something. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's the ordinary developer, but like it's such a rare occurrence now that it's kind of not a big deal.
That's great.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm having a good time. What have you been up to since December? Just summarize your whole last 9 months.
Well, a lot. The single biggest thing that we did at WP Engine since then is we purchased one of our competitors, Flywheel. About 200 people and about almost 30,000 customers. A lot of them are in Omaha, and then they have some distributed folks. So it's a lot. So of course that was a big deal. There was lots to do for that deal to be done, and then afterwards there was a lot to do for meeting everyone and gathering everyone together and starting to talk about what things are separate and what things we might want to integrate and what kind of timeline and just all the things that you do, and really taking the time to ask how to make this go right. Now, WP Engine has made a couple other acquisitions, but not of that size. And those went really well in terms of culture, in terms of the excitement of the people to stay. In fact, everybody at all of the companies that we purchased so far have stayed. Now, someday someone's going to leave. So like, I'm not trying to say that's the goal forever, but it does point out that like, we didn't just screw it up, or people weren't just frustrated, or I don't know, like we didn't violently screw it up. Like it's generally that went well. Now, of course, Flywheel, again, much bigger situation, so it's different. But so really trying to take a lot of time and attention on the culture, and working with people around what's next, because we really want to lean into what Flywheel had been doing, and we want to continue doing that, and even hire more and hire in Omaha, where again most of the company is. They're known as a really terrific company in Omaha in terms of quality of life and the kind of people and the kind of culture and what it does for the city. And so we again want to lean into that and do that more. So just making that really clear and setting up plans for that so that people are excited that we want to continue the mission in that sense. Of course, it takes a lot of work to do that. So that's been like a major occupier of time in the last maybe 4 or 5 months.
It's striking to me how often I hear people that are working on larger organizations, culture becomes such a thing they're thinking about all the time, versus smaller companies. It's like, let's not die, or let's focus on customer acquisition or this or that. And then I think you hit a certain level and it's like the only way we're going to succeed is if we can kind of all get on the same page in a grand way, and culture is kind of the operating system for that. Is that a fair characterization?
I would say it a little differently. I would say A lot of people don't think of it, but nowadays it's more common, which is good. What I would say is some people say you should think of culture from the very beginning. I actually agree with what you just said, which is we don't have time for that. It's kind of awkward to think of values when it's just two of us. So I actually agree with you that early on, that's not necessarily, it's okay to do. I don't think it's bad to do, but also it's okay not to. What happens is you get to a point where, and I would say this is around 20 to 30 people, where you look around and say, if we don't decide what kind of people we're hiring, then we won't hire that kind of people. And if we do, it'll be by accident. So it's not so much that we need an operating system for the business, like an operating manual, because to me, culture is not operating procedures. That's different. And it's useful, and as you get bigger, they're more useful. But it's not that. It's values. It's what's important. It's the things that, even if the decision's well, especially when the decision is hard, how do you make it? Or if there's option A, in which we lose money, or the brand is worse, or slower, something that's clearly worse for the company. When do we still choose to do it because it's right? Because it's who we are. It's what we stand for. It's bigger than whether we made a little bit more money this month. It's bigger than whether that might hurt our brand to do that, if it's the right thing. So that question of what is the right thing, which is not as an operating procedure, because it can't tell you what to do in every situation. That's not really the thing that does that is the operating procedure, right? And even so, it should probably be humans thinking about stuff, right? But anyway, they're toward the operating manual, as it were. But culture and value is not that. So values is what is these inalienable things that we all are going to agree on. And culture is the output of living that and honoring that, actually doing that, not just being on the wall. So you get to a point where you're like, well, what are they? Because maybe there's decisions we need to make that way, but more to the point, again, hiring. How do we get from where how do we know the 32nd hire will be aligned to that? How do we know that? Are we asking questions in the interview for that? Are we holding existing people to account for that? Maybe there's a couple of people who aren't, just by accident, aren't that because we didn't define it. And we don't even know how to discern that or decide that or talk about that or talk to them about that or work with them to improve on that or even decide that they're not a fit here, even though they're great at their job. If they're not good at that, they still can't be here. How can we do that if we haven't written down what it is, right? Otherwise, it's just pure personal bias only. You're going to have a culture no matter what. And the question is, did you decide what it was? And there's some break point in that 15 to 30 person zone where you realize, or you might realize, oh, we can't sort of skate by without knowing that anymore. Or we won't be controlling what the culture is. So you can do that when there's two people. There's no problem with that. But maybe you don't know yet, and it's kind of early, and like you said, trying not to die. So that's okay. But at some point, it's not okay. You'll end up with just whatever you end up with that you didn't plan, and people won't fit necessarily, and it's hard to even know that. I mean, at scale, if you care about culture, yeah, you're going to have to talk about it all the time because it's the kind of thing that degrades and washes away into a gray nothing if you don't. And there's things you do all the time or daily or in meetings or monthly or weekly or quarterly to reinforce that stuff. But as you grow and things change, you're going to have to keep adding stuff to that for it to still be true or even stronger than it's ever been, or else it'll just sort of go away. Then you have your second location if you have offices, and then that's a different kind of thing. How you bring the torch there is different than adding another person in another location. You might say distributed teams are different. Exactly. Distributed teams will tell you that a lot of times bringing the team together occasionally is absolutely critical for people having certain kinds of relationships and to instill that culture. So in a distributed sense, exactly, it's also hard, but in a different way. How do you make it so that the sales team doesn't have a different culture than the engineering team, even though they are different personalities often and different types of work and this kind of thing? But that becomes more of an issue when there's 100 people in sales and 100 people in engineering, for example. Then that's a different challenge than when there's just a sort of entrepreneurial salesperson sitting right next to an entrepreneurial engineer, and that's the whole company. It's a lot easier for that to be the case, or any differences to be just gentle ribbing of the rapport that we have. It's just not the same thing when it's bigger. So it changes, in other words, what has to be done, or new things have to be done naturally. So leaders had better be constantly asking that and looking at that because new things are going to be needed.
Is there any chance of you starting a Jason Talks About How to Build Companies podcast someday?
That'd be really good. I don't have time right now, but I think podcasting is obviously what's happening now. It's what blogging was when I started blogging.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it feels unfair to ask you that, considering how many hundreds of posts you've written on the blog.
yeah, that'd be fun, but I just don't have time and setups and editing and the promotion, and I don't know.
Well, if I sent you the microphone and hired the editor, maybe I could get you to someday.
Yeah. Also, questions are good, right? Like, I have to think of topics. Like, it's not to be prompted and then go off on it.
Totally. Being a podcast guest is like the best gig in the universe, I think.
Yeah.
It's just like, here's a prompt, please go.
Yeah.
Spew some knowledge, or just ramble, whatever feels good.
Right.
Oh, awesome. Just one last thing I'm curious about before I let you go is how did the Flywheel acquisition talks start? Was it just like this like casual, hey, maybe we should talk about, buying you one day?
So I mean, sometimes those kind of things are actually not. I'm actually not at liberty to talk about. I'm very. Okay. I will be honest about whatever involves me only. But I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why people do that. I feel like I'm going to sidestep but try to still provide value to the question, which is kind of more about like how do those things happen in general. I think the most common way, which was not this time, but the most common way is you start working with a company where an acquisition is one way that you could work better together, but you start with some other way, reselling a thing and some other kind of partnership like that. That's often how it works. And in fact, one of my other startups, that's what happened. We started building something for this company, and eventually they said, "Wait, you could sell this to our competitors too, right?" And we said, "Yes." And they said, "We don't want you to do that." And we said, "Oh, well, here's how you fix that problem," right? So that kind of thing is not uncommon. Usually, though, what happens is the acquirer has some sort of corporate strategy. That's their next 3-5 year strategy type of thing. And the acquisition allows them to accelerate or de-risk that strategy. In other words, an acquisition is very rarely to create a new strategy or to go in a new direction. It's that there is a strategy. Now, the strategy might be to go in a new direction, and an acquisition is a way to do that faster again. But anyway, there's some strategy. And it's like, oh, wow, by acquiring this company, we could vastly speed up what it would take for us to do that. Or de-risk, like, well, we could try to do that, but would we be successful? I don't know. But here's a company already being successful, therefore it's de-risking to just acquire someone who's already being successful there. So in the case of a competitor like Flywheel that's a pretty easy one for us because sort of by definition, it's going to be, well, it's not always strategically aligned, but if the culture is a fit so that that's not going to be like the grinding of gears. And if the general strategy of how do we get customers, what's our attitude toward customers, what's our attitude toward what's important in the market, if that's generally aligned, then it's probably going to make sense. So that's sort of some of the mindset of like, why did it make sense for WP Engine? So if you're wanting to sell someday, or if you're wanting to sell to a particular company, then thinking it from their point of view is a good way to do it, because then you can position yourselves or position the product or create a partnership that maybe is more likely to lead that way by asking, what is that company strategy? And by the way, you can ask them for them to tell you what it is, or maybe you have to guess, but you might be able to ask them. If they're a public company, they often state what it is, so that's nice. Anyway, you can find out what is that, and then in what way would we materially accelerate or de-risk them getting their own strategy, as opposed to sometimes founders say like, oh, this big company could enter this new market, or this company could do this. And if that's not aligned with their strategy, it doesn't matter. Even if you're right, that's kind of interesting, it's not going to happen probably. So occasionally you get a weird thing like Google likes to just be in lots of different areas in terms of it being Alphabet. I guess Google doesn't, but Alphabet does. But then you have to be like a Nest or a self-driving car thing to be interesting. So I mean, there's those exceptions. But I mean, the normal, hey, I bootstrapped this company, or hey, I have a small company and we make $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, $10 million a year, maybe $100 million a year, that kind of a range, not a Waze or something, not a YouTube, that kind of thing. Then what's the most likely way I get acquired? I'm just saying that's a common, that's a common path. As for selling, why sell? I think what happens a lot to founders, and I've said this before in presentations. So it's not, or I mean, in talk. So it's not. I'm not trying to imply this is the flywheel situation at all, but rather this is what I think is common. And I've said before, this is common is just as you said before, we're trying so hard to not die. They're not really thinking about stuff like, am I having fun? Because the answer is no. Like, it's not fun. It's really hard. Like, there's fun aspects, there's fun elements, but no, it's just incredibly hard. Is actually the truth. So then it's 5 years in, or 3 years in, 7 years in, it depends, and you're like, God damn, like, this sucks actually. And you kind of end up building a company that may be successful, but also you don't want to do it. And this is where I got in my previous company, Smart Bear. I got to this place of essentially burnout. Language you could use for this, burnout's maybe a good one. But it was like by accident. Like, I didn't plan. Who plans on being burned out in a few years and have a successful company? Like, nobody. So obviously it's by accident, and also not what you wanted. So that's bad. So how do you actually build the job that you want eventually? Like, not on day one. Like, right now you're not in that position yet, right? But you will be, and so maybe now's not the time. But as you start to hire the 10th person, or maybe just that it's a couple of years in or something, you start saying, like, what would I really want to do? Maybe I am already doing what I want to do. Perfect. To keep going. If the answer is no, it's not. And hopefully you ask yourself that maybe twice a year or something. Am I still having fun enough, or is this still really what I want? If the answer is no, you have to go, okay. Well, there's all kinds of choices. One is to leave. One is to let your partners continue to run it. One is to sell it to your employees. One is to raise money. One is to sell it completely. One is to hire a different person to run it and sort of take that that sort of pro and con of, like, well, someone else is running my business, but on the other hand, maybe I'm actually happier, and maybe I'm ready for that. I mean, there's I'm not even listing all the choices. The point is, there's like lots and lots of options, but frequently I find that founders don't ever ask it at all and don't consider any of the options at all, and then end up building like one that they don't like. And that's what I would say is a bad idea. In terms of selling the company, like, that's a bad reason to sell, and yet a lot of people get in that. So, but that's like preventable. And on the buy side, that's often the case. So, again, I'm not trying to imply specifically about Flywheel at all, and that actually is not the case. The burnout is actually not the case with Flywheel. Like, hopefully, it's okay to say that, because just to say it's not a negative, but that is a really common case. I think it's a pretty useful quasi answer.
Yeah, sure. So one thing I want to thank you for actually is you have a post on your blog, and the gist is sort of, you're doing a good job if you're enjoying the journey. Yeah. And so you talked about making sure, like, checking in and making sure you're having a good time. And so we actually added this to our retro questions that we do most weeks. And so, like, how can we enjoy the journey more? Like, how are we feeling? Are we struggling with anything? How can we have, like, more fun with this? So nice. I think that's been useful for us, and I wanted to thank you for that idea.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. I don't want to take too much of your time. It was great to catch up again.
It was, and congratulations on all your success. That's really fun.
Thank you. I am having a good time. It's working. The fun part is still very active, so
sweet.
Hopefully it keeps going. Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome. All right, take care. All right, our next guest we're checking in with is Mr. Rob Walling. Welcome, Rob.
Gentlemen, thanks for having me back.
Totally. Thanks for being on before and now too.
Absolutely. Congratulations on a 100 episode. That is quite a milestone. It's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels good, especially at our semi-slacker pace of taking off weeks whenever we want to. We finally made it.
That's the beauty, though, is you guys, you're doing a podcast. It's for fun, right? It's not like it's a business, so it's, it's something you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it sits at that intersection. It's fun, but also it has business benefits, so we try to be semi-regular with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How's TinySeed going?
It's good, man. We're about 2.5 months into the first batch, and it's like everything. I keep telling people this. It's like everything I wanted it to be, which is pretty rare. It's pretty rare for a new startup, I'll say, to feel that good. Normally, you get in 6 months and rubber meets the road, and you're like, boy, this is terrible. But I've been really enjoying it, just working with founders. It's like ambitious, motivated founders who are trying to build interesting things. What could be more fun than that?
It does sound fun, and I think you may have even described it this way in the past, but like you're getting to participate in the building process, but it's not on you at the end of the day. It's not all on your shoulders.
Yeah, there's a lot of vicarious. You can live vicariously through other people and be like, oh, I've seen, either I've encountered this or I've seen this encountered in other startups, and here's a way I would think about tackling it. And then they go away and they come back a week later and they've like done it. They implemented all the stuff and look, it worked. And it's like, all I had to do was, make an intro or do a 30-minute call. It's more high leverage, and I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I gotta be honest.
You get all the fun parts without all the stress of actually doing the implementation.
That's it. Now it might, some folks have, when I've had this conversation, they say, is this going to cut both ways? Are you going to get a year or 2, 3 into it and really be distant from it and feel like you want to get back into the trenches, which could happen. I don't think it will, but it's obviously not getting into the day-to-day work. That could be a danger of it.
Yeah. I mean, giving advice is kind of the most fun thing ever. So I'd be surprised if you wanted to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And I try not to give advice as much as like, what are our options here? Let's think through. What have other people, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, just having smart, like interesting conversations with smart, motivated people about how to make their business better. I mean, that I literally have been doing that for free for 20 years. You know what I mean? So like to be able to give people money and mentorship and guidance and then be able to also do that is super fun. I mean, Derek and I meet up probably about once a month. We sit in front of a whiteboard for 2-3 hours, and we'll talk about his stuff sometimes. We were talking about Level. We were talking about some MicroConf things, last month where he was giving me advice on how we could, shift some stuff around. I look forward to those. Like, those are the highlights of my week when we do them,
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's nice to just get kind of that a little bit of an outside perspective, where if you're in the day-to-day all the time, then you almost get a little bit myopic sometimes. You lose perspective, and then you get someone else who's aware of what's going on, but not totally like in the day-to-day, and it helps get those fresh eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I've been listening to Out of Beta, Matt and Peter's podcast, both TinySeed folks. And so they said that there was a retreat recently. And at the end of the retreat, you gave each founder like a target number of like where you want them to be at revenue-wise at the end of the program.
That was awesome.
It sounded kind of fascinating.
It was cool. So we actually had multiple founders approach us privately and say, look, I'd like to know more about your expectations. What do you expect? It would be a motivating factor for me to know that. And so Einar and I sat down and kind of said, where do we think folks should be? And there are certain folks who are ahead of others, so we had to adjust it, but we kind of have a blanket. It's like a 1-sentence description of like, you should be here or you should double by this, but and it was definitely it seemed to get positive response. When we announced it, we were like, look, this is, we're not venture capitalists. We're not going to sit on your board and bust your chops and every week be like, hit this number. But having a goal of some kind to work towards shifts how you price, it shifts how you sell, it shifts all these things. And that was the reaction we got was wow, yeah, that shifts a lot of my thinking.
I almost want that too. But like, I feel like it's a bit of a double-edged sword where it's like suddenly a goal can sometimes take what is otherwise a success and make it feel kind of like a failure because you fell short of the goal.
It could. Yep. And where you are with Tuple, I think it would almost be hard to set a goal right now because you are growing so quickly. I get your, so folks know I get your kind of, it's an investor update, even though you don't have investors. It's your monthly update. You're growing so fast right now. I don't think I would set a goal until that kind of levels off and is more predictable,
Mm-hmm. I'll accept that as a problem to have.
Indeed. It's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Speaking of podcasts, I'm a fan of your current format and what you've been doing lately.
Oh, thanks, man.
I think the extra work is showing. So consider this one vote for keeping it up.
I appreciate that. Yeah, for folks who don't know, Mike Tabor and I have hosted Startups to the Rest of Us. We hosted it for 448 episodes, and then he just took a hiatus, the first hiatus either of us had really taken. And so he's been off for 10 episodes, and he's actually coming back next week. So we did almost a full hour. Normally we do about 30-minute episodes, but we did almost a full hour just because I wanted to dig into all the stuff that we had talked about last time. He was burned out. He was having some health issues. He was struggling with a lot of stuff. So, so I've been doing a lot of interviews and Q&A and just trying to mix up the format. And so I totally appreciate that. It's definitely twice as much time, if not more. I'm doing a lot of prep, trying to record locally to get the, highest quality audio, just all those little touches we've never implemented. And I think the thing I like is I like it. I like the art that I'm producing now. You know what I mean? I've always liked it, but it's always kind of been like, listen to this is fine. But like, I'm almost more proud of these last 10 episodes than probably, most of the last 100 episodes, just because you get into a rut, right? You do it for 9 years, and eventually, I think the change, it's been good for me, if nothing else, and general feedback has been, really positive. So I appreciate that.
Good. I think there's more personality in the episodes now. You have these like little interjections while you're talking to like guests or but even just like before or after the show, just kind of just being yourself and putting more of yourself out there. And I think that's part of what's making it more compelling.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's been very intentional. And so it's good that it's been working.
I also feel like I can hear Sherry talking through you as you like talk to these founders about all their like mental struggles and the anguish and all that.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, no, I picked up obviously a lot from her, but I think that winds up being such an interesting part of it because I keep saying like more than half of being a founder is just managing your own psychology, right? And Sherry's like, wait, I think I said that, and I maybe you did, maybe I did, but it is so interesting since we all face it. And we have a brand new website design for Startups for the Rest of Us.
Ooh, I just saw that. It looks great.
God, thank you.
Yeah.
You know how those go? It's like a pain in the butt while you're doing it, for 6 or 8 weeks of like, it's probably about 4 to 6 weeks. But once it's done, it's like, I should have done that 5 years ago,
Yeah, nice little visual refresh goes a long way, like makes you feel more proud of it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that went along with it literally was a week or two after I started kind of digging in and changing the format up, that I was like, we need a visual refresh too. You can't just do the audio. This looks like a 10-year-old podcast. Let's make it, let's try to make it new and fresh. I had never talked to Mike about this, but I even toyed with the idea of like, should we just start the numbering over? Like, should we literally start over at episode 1? Same feed, just have a new episode 1. But it was like, I don't know why, I didn't really see a lot of benefit to it. And so I want to be able to celebrate 500 when we get there. So
I see. Well, maybe you should consider having a bunch of people on and asking them
That's
serious questions.
Yeah, how's this going for you? Recommended?
Good so far.
Cool.
Some people are harder to wrangle into like a 10-minute clip than others, but we'll see how the final product turns out.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. I am also working on an unannounced secret podcast project that is coming up. Yeah, I found a producer and I've been doing some things. So that'll be startupsfortherestofus.com. Listen there. I'll certainly be talking about it there once I have it more formed. I have several hours of audio. Well, several hours of audio recorded at this point, but not fully produced. So
awesome, cool. Anything else you want to plug or talk about while you're here?
Well, 2 things. One, I'll give you guys an exclusive. There may be an email out before this is, I don't know. There's an email coming out in the next week, let's say. MicroConf US next year is April 19th through 24th in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
So we got it out of Vegas, which was kind of a
excellent
thing that people wanted to do. So we've been wanting to do that for years, but there's cost. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with planning a conference, and finally we have been able to make it work. So I'm pretty excited.
That's great.
Thanks. Not just because it's here where I am, but just that we don't have to go back to Vegas next year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I will not miss the smoky casinos.
Yeah, indeed. Me as well. And then
we have some great food recommendations here in Minneapolis too. I'm really excited to take people around to like my favorite burger spot and some of the favorite speakeasies and stuff. I think it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, it's a great city to entertain.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm excited
awesome.
about
And
that.
I'll just crash at your place, Derek. So that'll work on.
Yeah, there you go. Hey man, I have a basement.
I love it.
Bootstrapper life.
That's the best. And then MicroConf Europe's in Croatia here in about 2 months, end of October. If folks want a little vacay, we're lining up speakers for that right now. So it's been fun as well. Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey Rob, thanks for coming on and thanks for being a guest in the past and sharing your knowledge.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for inviting me back on. And again, congratulations, hearty congratulations on making it to 100 episodes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. It is time for the one and only Mr. Paul Jarvis. Hello, sir.
Oh, hi.
How's it going?
It is definitely going. I feel like I'm running around with my head cut off a little today, but yeah.
You said you're recording something.
I'm re-recording all of the videos for my MailChimp course at the moment, which requires recording myself, recording a screencast, and then because I don't like the way that any of these software products compress audio, I'm also recording the audio on another separate program. So I've got 3. I feel like there's a better way, but I just haven't found a better way.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I've experienced this. It's like, do you do the separate audio track?
Yes, because it sounds compressed. It sounds compressed. Like I'm using Camtasia. I tried a whole bunch of other programs. It sounds compressed, and it might just be me who can hear it, but I don't like the compressed. Like I have a super expensive mic and setup and mixing board and everything. Like I want people to hear how awesome my equipment is.
Totally. Yep, that's legit. I appreciate obsessing over those things,
Oh, yeah,
even if no one really notices.
exactly. You'll notice.
I will. When I released my last course, I went through and I edited out like breaths
Yeah.
and like little mouth noises, and I went pretty hard.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I can hear, so like you develop such neuroses too. Like I can hear when my tongue leaves the roof of my mouth
Yeah.
on the audio, and I'm like, I don't like that sound. So like and I do that probably once a minute. And it's like, okay,
Yep.
nobody else can hear this except for me.
Yeah, editing that audio myself was such a stupid idea.
Oh, I know. I should have just given it to somebody else because I have an editor and an engineer for my show.
Yeah,
I should just hire them to do my courses as well.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, if I ever make another one, I will not be doing that. Like, get the content right, but all those little breaths and stuff, man, that was ridiculous.
Oh, exactly. I pay my editor for my podcast way too little, I found. Hopefully he's not listening to this.
We pay ours plenty, I'll have you know.
Yes.
They are paid very fairly. Yeah. So what's going on in your life?
Fathom is taking up, other than like the course stuff, like Jack and I are trying to get a new version of Fathom out the door in probably the next 30 or 40 days. And where you're rebuilding it, which I don't want to have to do again. Like in theory, like you probably feel the same way as like a software guy. Like it always seems like such a good idea to like, oh, we've learned so much. Like, let's just start from scratch and build it. We feature froze a bunch of times. Obviously, we don't understand what feature freezing means, but it is
Feature
so
chill.
much feature chill. Yeah. So we've learned a lot, but it's also like, we're trying to get it to a place where we can add a feature without having to rebuild all of it. We want it to be fucking awesome. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear, but like we want it to be so good, and it's getting there. But the progress on that is so slow and so tedious. Like I've redesigned even just the interface. I've redesigned the interface 3 times. Nobody will ever see the first 2 versions of it, but it wasn't at the level that I wanted it to be at, even with the code. Like we're trying to shave off like nanoseconds of our collector loading and like changing DNS providers a bunch of times. So we're like, oh, the DNS lookup is taking like just a tiny bit too long. We're like, this isn't good enough. So
I like it. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough, right? It's like, when do you stop obsessing and actually ship the thing? We were just having this debate today. Like we have this little feature that no one really, like maybe a couple people asked for it, but like it was just a small thing that we built into Tuple, and it's complicated. And so it makes other things complicated. It interacts with other things. It's like, well, I like that it does it the right way, and it's annoying for us, but I like that it is just good.
Yeah. I will caveat that with the fact that the reason we're doing this is because Fathom is making money and growing. And the first version, we were just like, let's just get this out. Especially since it's open source. Like, we'll get this out. People are going to add a bunch of like issues on GitHub. We'll fix it as we go. It's not production. Now it is production. Now we are tracking millions of page views a month for our clients. It's making money. And we're like, okay, we want this to be more valuable to more people. So we're actually spending way more time on V2 than we did on V1. Because V1, we wanted to get that thing out the door. Because we wanted to see if it would like float or blend or whatever the kids say these days. So
Yeah, no, that's savvy. So now you've earned the right to obsess.
yes, hopefully that's what I tell my neurotic self, is that is the case.
Mm-hmm. I don't like your pricing. I think we can make it better.
We've actually had a ton of conversations about pricing, and we're like, we do think that we could make it better, but then we're looking at it and we're like, all of these people are paying for this because we're always like, well, if we just make it cheaper, maybe more people will buy it.
No.
And then, yeah, we've stopped ourselves a bunch of times. So we're like, people are buying this, and people are buying this at half the features that we're going to have in V2. And it's like, we want this for the long term. Like, I don't want to just like churn and burn through some like growth hacking of getting all of these people in and then all of them leaving. Like, we have almost no churn, and people are signing up for V1, which I think is valuable. But V2 is going to be even more valuable. And so we've debated this internally a bunch of times with pricing, and we're like, we got to keep it where it is. Like, this is where it needs to be in order for us to keep working on this as well, which I think is so important for a business. Like, I don't want Fathom to just be like around and then gone tomorrow. Like, I want to keep, like, my current business I've had for 21 years. Like, I want Fathom to be decades of value for people. So it has to be priced in a way that works for people, but also that works for us as a business.
I think you could double every number on this page and it would just work.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. All right. Well, that'll be $10,000.
For everybody per month. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm excited to see where this goes. This, by the way, for people is privacy-focused analytics, which is so hot right now. Such a good niche to be in.
It's so funny, too, because like we launched it on the day that Mark Zuckerberg was testifying in Congress, in
Amazing.
U.S. Congress for privacy violations. And we're like, this is so lucky for us.
It's great when you catch a wave like that.
Exactly. And I do love surfing, so.
Nice. Cool. So course work, Fathom stuff, redesigning interfaces multiple times.
Yeah.
Just living the dream of the independent maker.
Exactly. It's a lot of work, but also it's summer too, man. Like I've also been traveling a whole lot because like, why not? It's hard to not feel guilty about that. I feel like there's a maker's dilemma with this. I think Derek feels this pretty hard too. Well, you probably do as well. Where it's like, I feel guilty if I'm working too much, but then I feel guilty if I'm not working. So either way, I feel guilty. I think it's also my fault that I grew up Catholic. So you're just supposed to feel guilty about all of the things at all times.
Yeah.
So.
Well, mission accomplished.
Hooray!
Yeah. I'm surprised at how often I've set myself up for those like double binds where like I feel bad either way.
Exactly. So
it's just what a life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. We'll figure this brain stuff out. I think another 30 or 40 years and like I'll really understand how to just stay calm.
Exactly. Me too. I've got to double the amount of meditation I do or something, or 10x my meditation. I got a growth hack meditating.
Yeah. I want you to double every meditation number on this page.
Exactly. I need to win at yoga. That's the other thing. It's just...
Yes. Competitive yoga should be a thing, right? I feel like the world is ready for this.
Yes.
The millennials would eat that up. All right. Well, now we're reaching. So
yeah.
I just wanted to say, hey, thanks for coming on the podcast a couple times. Even the ones that didn't go so well. It's been great to have you as part of the podcast. So thanks for being on.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. It's such a great show, and I think people get so much value from it. So I'm just happy to be chatting in people's earballs that listen to this show.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, thanks again. Bye, Paul.
Cheers.
All right, we have our next repeat guest, and it is Mr. Rahul Vora. How's it going, man?
Going well. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to have you back. By the way, you should know I believe you have the current honor of having the most downloaded Art of Product episode so far.
No way. How many? Assuming that you want to share that on your podcast.
I haven't looked in a little while. It was somewhere in like the 15,000s, somewhere in there.
Damn. Cool. Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Appreciate the shout out. I think I remember seeing it up in the corner, the little superhuman announcement, which we appreciated. That was exciting for me.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, there's a little dot up in the top right-hand side of Superhuman where we announce new features. And a few people have asked me actually how we do that. That isn't in-house technology. That's a really cool startup called Headway. And you can add that little dot to any product.
We might need to do that. Something I'm noticing is like, so we'll do announcement emails talking about our new features, and then like a couple weeks later, people will be like, "What is this thing? I haven't seen this." And like they're not really reading it. Some people are.
Yeah.
But I think the in-app version is a nice option to have there.
Yeah, agreed.
So what's been going on? It's been a couple months since we talked to you. Anything new and exciting in your world?
Yeah. So well, we announced the Series B as you saw. That was since our conversation. That was super exciting. As a result, kicked off a whole spate of hiring. So I don't remember exactly how large we were when we had our last conversation, but we are now at 35 people, well on our way to be around 60 by the end of this year.
Wow. I remember last time I talked to you, I was asking you like what your week broke down to time-wise, and you actually had that number, which is kind of amazing. And I think you said you were spending 20% of your time on hiring back then. Has that gone up since then?
What I'm aiming for is around 30% of my time to go into recruiting. And some weeks that's 40%, some weeks it's a little bit less. I think when you and I spoke, I was doing a bunch of PR activity and sort of the fallout from raising the financing. So we're now back up to normal levels of recruiting for me.
Do you actually have like web browser access to the bank account where like $33 million got dumped into?
Yeah, I guess I do.
What's that like?
What's it like? You know what? It doesn't really feel like anything. My dad asked me a similar question over the weekend. We were catching up, and he said, "Hey, Superhuman was in the Sunday Times in the UK this last Sunday. What does that feel like?" And I said, "Yeah, it doesn't really feel like anything, to be honest. I mean, it's good. It's great. Obviously, I'm not saying otherwise, but feels like responsibility, I guess, in both cases."
I feel like we have such a strong ability to adapt to whatever happens and make that the new normal. And you're just like, yeah, it feels like I'm doing the thing I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. With the money specifically, my first thing was to urgently invest it, because even with the recent interest rate cuts, you can still make a decent amount of money off interest from $40 million or so.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah.
So hiring a lot, making interest off money, continuing to work on the app. Still a happy user, by the way.
Fantastic. We have. I'm super excited for next week's release. When is this episode airing?
It'll probably be next week when it comes out.
Ooh,
so it'll probably you won't be spoiling anything, I don't think.
Well, I don't mind. I'm always happy to talk about upcoming releases. Yeah, we have a really exciting visual refresh for the iOS app coming up. It's a lot faster, it's a lot cleaner, and most importantly, we have reworked the legibility all the way through the app. And so now it's a much more pleasant place to spend time in, which I know was contrast was one of the concerns that folks had, and so we've improved that considerably now.
Nice. I love a good visual refresh. It's so satisfying to ship those things.
It is, yeah.
We redid our marketing site recently, and just having like a new identity out there, it feels good.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Cool. So anything else going on? Personal side? Anything else you want to chat about?
Let's see. I got a new puppy.
No way.
About 4 or 5 weeks ago. He's incredible. The sweetest little thing. He's an Alaskan Klekai. So an Alaskan Klekai is, imagine a Siberian Husky, but it's super, super small. So at adult weight, he'll be about 15 pounds. He's a tiny little bundle of love. This is my second Alaskan Klekai. Normally they are paranoid and neurotic and actually very difficult dogs. I know you're a fan of frameworks. Of course, I applied a framework to this. So there's this thing called the Volhard test, which originated in the 50s, which allows you to accurately predict the future personality of a dog by doing some basic psychometric tests at age 7 weeks. It turns out at 7 weeks of age, there is enough nature and not enough nurture that you can actually accurately predict personality. So I interviewed 5 different breeders, did this test on any number of different dogs, and I found an Alaskan Klekai with the loving, pleasing personality of a Labrador.
Did you ask it how disappointed it would be if it could no longer be your dog?
I think I could guess he would be very disappointed based on his actions.
Awesome. You're got to be busy at work. Adding a puppy responsibility to that is like no joke.
Sure. I think a lot of people question the timing as well, and I think we talked a little bit about mental health and wellness last time. I think it's super important to have stuff outside of work, and I get very into whatever I'm doing, I suspect, like the vast majority of founders, and it's been really grounding and very healthy to have a little puppy to take care of, and yeah, they take a lot of work.
First of all, there's like the emotional benefits of a dog. Like it reduces blood pressure and makes you feel good. And also, I imagine it kind of gets you a little bit out of your own head.
It does. I think founders especially have a take care of stuff mentality. It's good to to take care of a super dependent in this way, just like a little baby that basically can't do anything for themselves.
All right. Well, I'm glad you could stop by, give us a quick update. I wanted to thank you also for being on the podcast in the past and say thanks for being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again, and congratulations on reaching 100 episodes. That's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, feels great. All right. Take care.
Cool. Bye-bye.
All right. Our next person is Mr. Steve Sugar, the famous, the always mentioned. How's it going, dude?
Yeah. Good. Yourself?
I'm good. I am approaching highly caffeinated, so I'm ready to go.
Oh, yeah. I've only had one coffee today, so I'm going to brew one right after we finish here.
Nice. I make this jet fuel in the morning that's like this really intense, like French roast kind of stuff, and I make it like triple strength, and it's kind of amazing.
Okay. I just get, my wife works at Starbucks, like part-time.
Oh, nice.
So we get free coffee. Like she gets like markup every week. So she gets a bag of coffee every week and I do the French press thing. So
Nice. Yeah. My stomach hates me when I do this, but my brain loves it.
yeah. How much coffee do you drink?
It's probably like 2 to 3 a day, I would say.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm the same.
Yeah. So it's good to have you on the podcast. You come up a lot in passing.
Yep.
And also, I did want to thank you publicly for your work on the new Tuple landing page. We're getting lots of compliments on it. People are into it, and I'm very psyched with how it turned out.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. It was great because I got to recycle that and use it into a talk I gave at Laracon this year. So I kind of got to kill two birds with one stone. So, it came at a great time because I was working on your site and I was kind of coming up to Laracon and I haven't even started a talk yet. And I just thought it would make a great case study. And I kind of just got to think about how I prepare my talk as I designed it and thought about like what I was thinking about. I got to articulate my ideas clearly. So
yeah, that's super nice. Yeah. I mean, it's great for us also because like typically these are recorded and then so it's like becomes like almost a marketing thing later on. So
yeah, exactly. And I always try to like turn it into like good little tweets and stuff, like sharing my ideas. So it works for me. It's win-win for everyone, right?
It is. That's so nice about the fact that like you kind of sell design advice as well. You can sort of turn your consulting stuff into that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Like I can, if I ever do a lot of freelancing again, I can like almost like charge an additional fee for like marketing their stuff through my platforms.
I mean, it's not crazy.
No, it's not. Just make a refactoring UI video every single time I get a client. And then like you said, you got a lot of hits for Tuple when I made the refactoring UI video, you got a lot of signups from that. So
totally.
Yeah, that's great.
I think that was our biggest sign up day. Actually, was when that video came out.
Perfect. That's great to know. I'm recording another video as we speak. Well, not as we speak, but like this week, I'm making another video, and I'm using Justin Jackson's product Transistor for the example. So yeah, it's great. I always like to help out friends when it comes to that stuff to help promote their products. And usually they make great case studies. So yeah,
they have a pretty good landing page. I'm curious to see what you're gonna do with it.
Yeah, I'm doing the internal page. I'm doing the app itself,
I see.
And their app doesn't look too bad. There's not a lot of flaws with it. I was kind of digging around on their app. Like like Justin gave me access to some of his logins, and I just kind of found a page that I saw a lot of little quick wins. Like, I don't want to use examples for refactoring UI where they're completely like, I pretty much have to start from scratch. I always like to find ones that have just like more like quick wins to them so I can kind of cover everything in like a 10-15 minute video.
That makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah.
How did Justin score you? That's great. Did he just ask if you were free?
I was honestly like, I was kind of just digging around for a new video to make because everyone's been asking me to make one. And I reached out to Justin. I said, "Hey, can I take a look at your Transistor app?" Because like Justin always he does his live streams, right? And I always kind of tune in and kind of see what he messages me and asks me. Like recently, he messaged me to ask me to provide him with stuff that I'm working on for the next project I'm working on with Adam, which is Tailwind UI. And he asked if he can have access to that stuff. And I sent it over. So clearly he needs some like designs like input every now and then. So I thought I'd take a look at his app and see what could be done there.
Nice. So we had Adam on a couple weeks ago, and he sort of said that you guys were going to be working on Tailwind UI, I think it's called.
That's right. Yeah, that's like the kind of the working title for it right now. We're still like trying to figure what we're going to call it and really what it is exactly. You know what I mean? Like him and I work out twice a week. Like I go to this place, we lift weights, and there's pretty much business meetings. We're like, you know, we're lifting weights, so that's great, blowing off some steam. But we're just talking about like how we're going to market this thing, how we're going to, what we're going to call it, really what we're going to deliver. So yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm pretty excited to dive into that one. I always like working with Adam. At the end of refactoring UI, it was kind of bittersweet for me. It was like when we finished the book, I was really happy to get it out there and launch it, but I really enjoyed the process of just working on it with Adam, jumping on calls with him every day, and finishing. So when leading up to the end of it, I didn't know what I was going to work on next, if I was going to be working with Adam next, or if I was going to be working on anything next. But then it occurred to us that we can work on this next project, so that made me happy. But yeah, it's funny. That's how it is. Like I always enjoy working on the product. It's always fun to like launch something, but the exciting stuff is just kind of the not knowing almost of like if it's gonna do well and just solving those problems to finish it, right?
Totally. Yeah. It's also so nice. This is the thing I love about our setup is like being able to exercise and talk about work, like get two things done simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly. Our workouts, like they take like. Sometimes I'm there for like 3 hours because we're just chit chatting. Like we do intense workouts. Like we do like he does like powerlifting, and he's essentially my coach when I'm doing it. And but in between like lifts, we're just talking about like what could we be, you know, what are we doing here with the yeah. I'm jumping on a call with him right after this call to figure out what to talk about the marketing of Tailwind UI and try to figure out a way we can turn it into the same like marketing powerhouse that refactoring UI was. So trying to figure out a way to like deliver new content on Twitter or whatever medium we choose. So yeah,
I think that's worth people noticing is that the product is not built yet, but you're having a meeting to discuss the marketing.
Yeah, the product is essentially like refactoring UI itself took like 3-4 months to like write from like when we like wrote the first word to finishing it, but we spent 18 months before that marketing it, right? So that's really where the hard work is, and that's the fun stuff. So
totally, and that's where you get a runaway product if you have the right thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, say hi to Adam for me when you talk to him, and thanks for stopping by and letting us know what's going on.
Great. Thanks.
Take care, man. So that's it. That is our 100th episode of the Art of Product podcast. Now, before I go, I would be remiss if I did not point out the best part about having a podcast, which is all of you listening. In particular, those of you that have reached out in the past to DM us or email us and say that the podcast has been useful for you. Thank you so much for that. That really makes it even more fun to do this. So thanks for saying hi. Thanks for listening. And thanks for joining us for this 100th episode. As always, show notes can be found at artofproductpodcast.com. Thank you from me and Derek so much for listening.